Welcome back to the shed. If you follow my channel, you've no doubt seen this engine before, as this is the P.M.Research #1 oil drilling engine, which I built from a casting set back in 2022. At the time I ran it mostly on air, but occasionally it ran on steam, and I thought this is such a lovely, beautiful engine on steam that it would be really nice if it was to have its own boiler. Now, last year at the Rempston Steam Festival, I bumped into an old friend of mine, Dave Walker. He was in the model tent, as he normally is, with his wonderful model engine display, and he had this lovely little steam boiler for sale. Now, I don't know whether it's a homemade or whether it's a commercial unit, but it seemed to be just the perfect size boiler for my oil drilling engine. I did a few modifications to it. I remade the steam regulator valve, added a pressure gauge, and because of the long distance between the boiler output to the actual engine input in the configuration I wanted, I decided to run the supply pipe right through the boiler casement so that it sits in the flames of the burner, getting superheated on its way to the engine. It then runs through a displacement oiler which I made a while back, and then it runs around through the ball governor and into the steam chest to provide the hot steam pressure to run the engine. Now, previously, when running on steam, I used to have just a short pipe coming out of the bottom of the exhaust. And of course, this sprays water everywhere and makes a bit of a mess, especially during startup with a cold engine as the steam condenses. So I built this little brass box unit, which I'm going to call a condenser, so the exhausted steam comes through this pipe and up the main exhaust. The wet saturated steam is prevented from exiting out the top of the main exhaust tube by this little deflector plate to stop the oily water jumping out of the top of the chimney, and will instead now run down the inside of the main tube into the chamber box below and dribble out of the pipe at the bottom without any force of steam pressure to spatter oily water onto my freshly pressed white Egyptian cotton shirts. I built a new tapered base for the engine and used a printed image of brickwork to create a visually authentic structure, and then mounted this on a plain grey painted baseboard alongside the boiler. All the hot steam pipes were lagged using a cotton string and glue to keep the steam as hot as possible before entering the engine. To fill the boiler with water, I removed the steam regulator so that the air is able to exit the boiler as I'm pouring the water in through the safety valve port. Now, this boiler is approximately 400 millilitres capacity, so 300 millilitres was added to allow room for a head of steam when heating. Why is it every time I start to fill an engine with water, it triggers a bladder response in my body that simply cannot be ignored? Back in a sec. So I use filtered rainwater for all my steam engines, as it is freely available all year round in the UK. After filling, I refit the safety valve and give it a pinch up with a spanner. The main steam valve is simply a tapered shaft inside a tapered hole, but precision is not needed here, just as long as it works. Now, I know that the valve handle looks a bit out of scale, but it's easy to grasp and it doesn't get hot either, so I can live with that. To make the burner tray, I used a billet of aluminium and I simply milled out a deep pocket inside to create a container area for the fuel. An offcut of vermiculite fireboard was used as the liner to absorb the fuel, and finally I formed a piece of stainless gauze to fit in the top. I built a burner cover from some stainless steel, which allows me to regulate the size of the burner flame by sliding it in over the burner gauze. If the pressure is getting too high for the engine to consume, as the last thing I want is an exploding boiler. The spirit fuel saturates the vermiculite base, and the vapour will ignite easily, and it's fairly wind resistant too. I'll wait a few moments to be sure the fuel is fully burning along the length of the gauze, and then pop it into the boiler. It will take several minutes to heat the water, so in the meantime I'll just oil up the engine with some regular light oil, making sure all the oiler cups are filled and any bearing surfaces given a drop of oil. It's starting to get warm now. The gauge is rising slowly, but maximum pressure will be around 25 to 30 psi, where the safety valve will begin to open. The engine will quite happily run down to about 18 psi. The hot steam pipes, which have been lagged with cotton string, insulate the heat and also prevents me from burning my fingers too often. It has gotten a bit grubby from running, but all this adds to the character of the model. The wet condensed steam is now coming through the engine. Now the engine is cast iron and cold, so this needs to be warmed up by the hot steam so that the steam no longer condenses. Once the engine is hot and running and the boiler in full steam, the water content is minimum, so it'll gurgle and spit for a bit until it settles into a steady rhythmic chuff 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 of steam. Now I missed noticing that the ball governor wasn't actually rotating there. I think it might have been a bit of oil on the belt. Well, I think it's a beautiful combination. I love the sound of the engine when run on steam, and it appears to be mechanically smoother and quieter than when it is on air. I love the steam pumping out the chimney and the beautiful sound it makes, breathing, gurgling, and the smell and sound of the boiler rumbling away in the background. Live steam really adds a special dimension to these small model engines. And as you can see, it runs pretty spectacular right now. I'm really quite impressed with it. What a perfect little boiler for such a beautiful engine. Well, so far it's holding up quite well. The engine will run for about 10-12 minutes, something like that, with the 300 millilitres of water and the full load of fuel. And once the engine is hot, it puts out very little condensation, and it just sounds gorgeous. You know, you can hear the boiler chuckling away in the background, popping and stuff like that. It's just lovely. The governor regulates the speed of the engine, so no matter how much I open it up, it's not going to run any faster than what it's been set to, which helps the engine run longer as it preserves the head of steam in the boiler. It's a lovely engine, always has been, and I think with this new little boiler added, it makes it a beautiful thing altogether. The grey baseboard that it is sat on was just a temporary block of wood which I was using to assemble the boiler and engine to see how it would work out, but it kind of ended up permanent, so I just painted it grey. I might add some visual detail like cobblestones or something like that to make it look a bit more authentic, and I'd like to put a little coal storage area with a tiny shovel leaning up against it, just to give it that diorama type of look. So it is far from finished in my mind, so do let me know in the comments if you have any ideas of your own which I could use. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short update of my P.M.Research #1 engine and its new boiler. And during the summertime, I have a bronze casting set of the PMR #5 vertical engine, often known as the Coke bottle engine, which I hope to start building. Now this was sent to me by a very kind gentleman called James from New Hampshire in the United States. And it's an old full bronze kit from the 1980s or 90s, complete with original blueprints to work from. Thank you, James. Well, that about wraps it up, I think, for this video. It's been nice building this boiler and engine combo. I look forward to building the PMR #5 in the summertime, if we ever get any summertime. It's raining like crazy again here in Great Britain. At least I've got plenty of rainwater to collect for the engines. And I just want to say to you, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, then give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you've not subscribed, then why not? Just click the button, it costs nothing. And of course, if you want to send comments, please do. I love seeing the comments. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace.